Before the Europa League began in 2009, the Champions League's sister competition was known as the UEFA Cup. Its home was Channel 5 on Thursday nights and was won by some of the biggest teams in the world such as Real Madrid, Bayern Munich and Juventus, with Shakhtar Donetsk winning the final UEFA Cup in 2009. This season, Arsenal will be competing in the Europa League after failing to finish in the top 4 last season, so let's go back to the year 2000 when they reached the UEFA Cup final, losing to Galatasaray on penalties, looking at who started for the Gunners and where they are now. In goal was David Seaman. The ponytailed stopper couldn't win the cup for Arsenal on penalties, making him an upset man with long hair and a moustache. Widely regarded as Arsenal's greatest ever goalkeeper, Seaman kept goal at Highbury until his release in 2003, then joining Man City to work under Kevin Keegan, but would retire in January 2004 due to injury. Since hanging up his gloves, Seaman has got rid of the ponytail and took part in reality TV series Dancing on Ice, pairing with professional skater Frankie Poultney, who he married in 2015 and did almost kill whilst on the show. Most recently, Seaman took part in the game for Grenfell at Loftus Road and was replaced by the drummer from Bastille for a penalty shootout. Clearly he couldn't be trusted after the UEFA Cup final. At right back was Lee Dixon. Like Seaman, Dixon was in the final few years of his Arsenal career when the 2000 UEFA Cup final came round. The fullback retired from the game in 2002 after more than 14 years at Arsenal, making 458 league appearances for the club. Since retirement, Dixon has moved into the media, beginning with the BBC and Match of the Day before a big transfer to ITV in 2012. Is Dixon any good as a pundit? He's just sort of there, not really saying anything. Centre-back was Martin Keown. The England centre-half won his fair share of trophies at Arsenal, winning 7 competitions excluding the Community Shield, with 4 of his triumphs coming after the UEFA Cup final of 2000. Keown picked up his 2nd and 3rd Premier League winners' medals, with his 3rd being as part of the Invincibles, despite not being a first-team regular during the season, as well as 2 more FA Cups. Keown was released in 2004 and joined Leicester, making 17 appearances in 6 months before joining Reading, where he retired in the summer of 2005. The defender came out of retirement to play for Wembley FC in June 2012 as part of a TV documentary and is now working as a pundit for the BBC, talking rubbish about legovers rather than stepovers. Up next, it's Tony Adams. The man who captained the Gunners in the final in Copenhagen, One Club man Adams retired in 2002 and has his own statue outside of the Emirates. Known as Mr Arsenal, Adams has been in and out of management since retiring, having disastrous spell after disastrous spell beginning at Wycombe in 2003, where he oversaw their relegation to League Two. In 2006 he became Harry Redknapp's assistant at Portsmouth and then took over in 2009 when Redknapp headed to Tottenham, but Adams lasted just 16 games at Pompey, picking up only 10 points before the sack. Next up it was Azerbaijan for Adams, who became manager of Gabala in May 2010 before leaving in November the following year. His most recent job was Granada in Spain, brought in April to keep the club in La Liga, where he tried to sign Nigel Rio-Copa and Kieran Richardson and stated that his aim was to keep it out at one end and stick it in the other. They did none of those things and Granada finished bottom. Left back was Sylvinho. The UEFA Cup final was the end of Sylvinho's first year at Arsenal, and after one more season he left the club to join Celta Vigo in 2001. The defender would go on to play for Barcelona under Frank Rijkaard and then Pep Guardiola before spending one season at Manchester City, retiring from the game in 2011 after 11 Premier League games for City. Sylvinho has been in coaching ever since, spending most of his time in his native Brazil, but briefly headed to Italy to work for Roberto Mancini at Inter Milan, but is now working for the Brazilian national team. In midfield we've got Ray Parlour. The only Arsenal player to score in the penalty shootout, it's only Ray Parlour left Arsenal after the Invincible season to join Middlesbrough for 2 seasons and then dropped to the Championship in 2006 with Hull for a year. Like many others, Parlour agreed to play for Wembley FC in 2012, but nowadays the Romford Pele works in the media, doing bits for TalkSport as well as working as an after-dinner speaker. Next up we've got Patrick Vieira. The box-to-box midfielder missed the penalty that gave Galatasaray the chance of victory in the UEFA Cup final, but don't let that hide the fact that Arsenal still haven't replaced Patrick Vieira, who left the club in 2005. That's more than 10 years ago. He joined Juventus for a year, then headed to Inter Milan after the whole match-fixing scandal and relegation for Juve. In 2010 Vieira returned to England and joined Manchester City to work with Roberto Mancini again, and remained with the club following retirement in 2011, working as a football development executive at the club, then managing their reserve team. In November 2015, Vieira got his first senior job, taking over the newly formed New York City to oversee the likes of David Villa, Andrea Pirlo, Frank Lampard and English youngster Jack Harrison. Next in midfield we've got Emmanuel Petit. This was the Frenchman's final game for Arsenal, joining Barcelona in the summer of 2000, spending one season in Catalonia before heading back to London, signing for Chelsea for £7.5 million and then retiring in 2005 due to a knee injury. Last year, Petit became the French brand ambassador for trading broker UFX.com, who Andreas Iniesta also represents, and recently Petit stated that the current crop of Arsenal players must stop acting like babies, who responded by calling Petit a stinky face and refusing to sit on the naughty step. Up next it's Marc Overmars. Like Petit, this was Overmars' final Arsenal game, and like Petit, he would join Barcelona in the summer of 2000, and like Petit, he would win nothing in Spain, despite spending 4 years in Spain compared to Petit's 1. Overmars returned to the Netherlands in 2008 to play for his first club Go Ahead Eagles, retiring in 2009. In 2012, Overmars was named the Director of Football at Ajax, whom he played for before Arsenal, and this year was linked with becoming the Director of Football at the Emirates, but remains with Ajax. Up front we've got Dennis Bergkamp. The non-flying Dutchman probably made his own way to the UEFA Cup final in Copenhagen due to his fear of flying, but he probably wishes he hadn't bothered at all after the Gunners lost on penalties. Bergkamp would retire in 2006, with his career ending as Arsenal lost the Champions League final to Barcelona, with the forward an unused substitute. After hanging up his boots, Bergkamp stated that he would not move into coaching. Well, in 2017, he's working at Ajax as assistant manager, beginning in 2011 with former Crystal Palace boss Frank de Boer. So Bergkamp may have been a fantastic footballer, but he's also a liar. And finally, we've got Thierry Henry. Arsenal's all-time leading goalscorer was unable to find the net in the UEFA Cup final, and would spend 7 more years in North London, going on to captain the club before joining Barcelona in 2007, where he won 2 La Ligas, a Copa del Rey, a Champions League, a Super Cup and a Club World Cup. In 2010, Mr Vavavoom headed to the MLS to play for New York Red Bulls, where he formed an unlikely partnership with Bradley Wright Phillips. Henry briefly came back to Arsenal in 2012 on a 2-month loan, where he scored his final ever goal for the Gunners, a last-minute winner against Sunderland. The Frenchman retired in 2014 and joined Sky Sports as a pundit, which explains why your mum loves watching Super Sunday. And he is also working with the Belgium national team as assistant to Roberto Martinez, his first venture into coaching. So that's Arsenal's 2000 UEFA Cup Final 11. Let us know your thoughts on how you think Arsenal will do in the Europa League in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.